Hello, I am bald, stupid ass wannabe tough guy and bullyish syndicated reality TV talk show host and widely renowned alcoholic Steve Wilkos. I want to warn everyone about the upcoming series of new episodes in which I plan to use and exploit my innocent guests for money and fame to further support my posh and narcissistic lifestyle.
Mr. Wilkos, many of your fans have been concerned that you appear to be living a double life that only you know about ever since your DUI back in 2018. You mentioned that your accident was so bad that you suffered from bleeding on the brain and other serious injuries. Do you mind telling us more about what happened on that day?
Well, that day, my kids were gone, my wife went to work, it was like the championship day where there were AFC and FC games, and I was gonna have a card game at my house and I brought alcohol for my friends to come over. Game fell apart, I was home alone, and I made a terrible decision to start drinking and I got really messed up and truthfully I wish I could tell you where I was going and where I was coming from and I had no idea, I was dead drunk.
You said you were also dealing with bouts of depression.
Yeah, everybody's talking to me and they want their problems solved and I didn't even realize that.
You don't have someone to talk to.
Right, like you know, who's gonna help me man?
Yeah, you don't have that go-to person to go to.
I had been dealing with depression for probably like the last 10 years, really bad crippling depression. I've been battling it on and off but since I stopped drinking, no more depression. I struggled with sleep pressure with dealing with the show and I probably dealt with a lot of it with alcohol, but now that I gave up alcohol I've never been happier in my life. I sleep great, so a lot of these things that caused me problems really cleared up since I stopped drinking.
Well, if I didn't know any better, Steve, it would seem to me that some of your drinking stories don't make much sense. You say you were not an alcoholic but you used alcohol for crippling depression to help sleep among other issues and now that you stopped, all of your symptoms just magically went away. And your wife must surely suck if you are struggling with depression and you don't have a go-to person.
Here we go again. Why don't you let me do all the talking because I am Steve Wilkos and I have the floor. Each time you try to expose me as the pathetic blowhard I am you always try to counter what I say with facts. And then when it becomes evident that I have no use for factual information, I get butthurt and make copyright claims on your videos and have them taken down.
But Mr. Wilkos, you recently announced that your show will begin releasing new episodes beginning October 5th of this year. I have always been personally curious about what sane individual would ever come on your show to get a polygraph. Do you mind explaining about why anyone would want to appear on national television to bring the world their personal business and raw emotion, humiliate themselves, and, most importantly, expose themselves to your bored, negative and drama-hungry fan base? And, quite frankly, the advice you offer is rather generic.
Well, we obviously play on the young, old, poor, disadvantaged and uneducated. Publicly humiliating the lower socio-economic classes wins attention and makes profits. This is why in more than 13 seasons of airing the show we have added no public disclaimer about polygraphs and refused to add therapists, psychiatrists, drug rehabilitation counselors, domestic abuse advocates and all the other professionals that our guests need despite that our dodgy behavior almost literally killed a single young mother of 4 named Anka Pennington and who knows how many other innocent guests we may have driven to suicide or near suicide as well.
Yes, I noticed that you also did this with a young woman named Samantha Delcamp who appeared on your show. She had a 3-year-old daughter named Arabella Parker who was beaten to death by her 19-year-old boyfriend Jared Burgess. Even though you reportedly promised Samantha that you would help her, you instead publicly screamed at her and berated her and bullied her into believing that she was partly at fault for the abuse that her boyfriend gave her daughter because in your opinion she did not do enough to protect the girl even though she passed that polygraph you so believe in for not abusing her daughter and even though the mother was being abused by the boyfriend too. You verbally abused this woman in front of millions and in front of a cheering, taunting audience all while she was already grieving over the impending death of her little girl and after all the terror she suffered at the hands of her boyfriend already. Then Samantha was sent to prison without parole as if she was an active accomplice in the abuse of her child and she now has a pending psych eval to prove that she was an abuse victim too, something that you failed to do. Doesn't any of this bother you at all?
Well, what are all of you wimps gonna do? Jump on a plane to my mansion in Darien, Connecticut and beat me up? Or get on my stage and confront me on all of my crap as if we would air it? With all of my security guards, millions of dollars, and ass-kissing fans to protect me, none of you losers stand a chance. This is why my wasted Dollar Tree Charlize Theron version of a wife Rochelle Wilkos doesn't care about who I hurt, because being the executive producer of my show, this is all her idea in the first place, and this is why we continue to carry on as if our marriage is wonderful, and why we never intend to apologize to our victims, much less publicly apologize to them in our children's presence either. As long as we spoil our children with material luxuries that should be more than enough to compensate for being terrible examples for them.
Yes, it's why I am not surprised that your attorney repeatedly terrorized Anchor even after the fact and finally bullied her into losing her job. Even just trying to induce her into removing all of her YouTube videos seems very inappropriate. She has a right to share her stories of Steve Wilkos' abuse with the world in order to help and warn others, and you are obviously trying to stop her from exposing all of you cowards. It's why you were forced to foolishly admit that you exploit your guests for ratings.
Well, you're doing a show for entertainment and you want ratings, right? You can't have two people sitting like a bump on a log or people aren't gonna tune in. So you better do a show that's entertaining that people are gonna watch. Do we wanna help people with the show? Yes. But the only way I'm gonna be able to help people is if the show is entertaining and people tune in. We don't seek people out, people come to us. Are we exploiting them for ratings? Yes. Do we exploit them just to exploit them? No.
You are full of it, Steve Wilkos. People come to you because you deceive them with false advertising, and then you wait until they arrive at your studio in order to rush them through signing the contract to make it easier for them to gloss over the fact that you are not a professional, polygraph examinations are not reliable, and that you are only using their stories for entertainment and not for therapy or other legitimate help.
Well, I obviously have to keep up this facade of being your friend in order to work my way around blindsiding all of you trusting simpletons. I have long since mastered the art of manipulating my guests into a false sense of security so that I, the superstar of the show, get to slam all of you gullible stupid asses with my own malicious agenda.
Which happens to be egging your guests on, trying to make them act out in violence, publicly humiliating them, and thereby continuing the cycle of violence, which many of your apologists classify as tough love, when all you do is exacerbate the existing problem on national television. You're not a therapist or a hero, Steve, you're just a Neanderthal with a lack of empathy. Your staff needs a team of real experts working with families, drug addicts, and abusers in a calm and civil manner, not a belligerent host shrieking at them and throwing torn-up paper at them like a crazed ape. You're not all that much different from your mentor Jerry Springer, just a whitewashed version of him, and of course Springer, one of your main producers, enjoys his own share of the profits too. I suppose that's why Springer hasn't apologized to Anchor for your criminal behavior and why he won't report it either. Both he and your wife, executive producer Rochelle Wilkos, was probably in on it.
Well, I like to flaunt my ex-cop and former Marine background as if it redeems the fact that I am a bully who needs to make a serious investment in anger management, and of course my ugly-ass wife Rochelle refuses to apologize to Anchor too, because I used Anchor partly to cover up the fact that I cheat on her with one of your female friends and... I don't cheat on my ugly-ass wife with one of your female friends. And the fact that I am a big Mr. Clean-looking dumbass makes it easy for me to scream at guests much smaller than I am and insult them and call them names, and if they are women already suffering from enough abuse, that's even more fun. But when I meet with guests who are my size or bigger, I freeze and don't yell at them or throw and break objects like I always do, because I am just a cowardly little bitch at heart.
Mr. Wilkos, the only solid evidence that can be used and is considered reliable in a court of law is DNA, fingerprints, and confession. Sociopaths and pathological liars can take this test and pass. Many guilty polygraph examinees who pass this test can get away with abusing a child scot-free, while polygraph examinees who are innocent can fail and then can get stalked, harassed, threatened, jailed, or even physically assaulted for no reason. Are you aware of how many lives you have damaged by soliciting the pain and trauma of others in this way? Don't you have any remorse at all? Why don't you apologize to your victims right now?
You could be right. Maybe one of these days I should kick myself out of my own stage and throw one of my own chairs at myself, because I am terribly sorry. Sorry that you were trying to expose me, that is. Well, put it this way. My son, at a school project, took a lie detector test, and he came with my guy Dan Rybakoff and he did the test and stuff, and it was like 100%. So, like, would I ever take one? Hell no. I mean, I would never take one.
Why? What are you hiding, Steve?
No, it's not that I'm hiding anything, but if it came to like, where, you know, would you let anything in your life that's important to you fall into the hands of a lie detector test?
Like, for example, getting it on with your favorite groupie behind your wife's back.
Yes. I mean, no. Well, I'll say it like this. I did beat a lie detector test when I was younger. And I lied on that thing.
What were you lying about?
I really don't want to get into that right now.
We have to know this, Steve. You said you lied. You're a habitual liar, Steve.
Yeah, after I'm bleeding on the brain from my accident, who knows what I said? So I took a lie detector test and I beat it. I was a young guy, I was working somewhere where something went down at the company and I was not involved. But I knew what happened. So the company came in and brought a lie detector test. They said, "You're taking a lie detector test." Immediately I crumbled and I was like, oh my god. So when I got in there, the guy sees I had my high school jacket on the thing and he's like, "You go to Lane Tech?" I go, "Yeah," and he goes, "Oh, I went there too." So right off the bat the guy is putting me at ease, and then I went on, I lied like I didn't know. I lied because I didn't want to be a rat, and some of these dudes I would have to say about were scary guys. And as a cop I also saw some funky stuff, but I kept my mouth shut.
Steve, you seem to have a repeated habit of telling on yourself in your interviews. If you admit that you are one of the ones who turned a blind eye, then you are essentially as guilty as the ones who committed the acts. Where is your wedding band, by the way? I hardly ever see you wear it as much as you used to, and the wife that you claim to have such an awesome marriage with rarely if ever shows up at your interviews with you in order to demonstrate the love and affection that you so proclaim she has for you as well.
We tricksters have a false deceptive persona we need to live up to and have every right to pull it off in the name of being con artists and bullies. I have to maintain appearances in order to make my victims' stories appear less believable, you know. I'm trying to stop my kids from finding out that I cheat on their mother with one of your homegirls who is younger and cuter than my wife is, and that I drove another girl to near suicide, and you keep messing up my fun. Jeez.
But it appears that you abuse your mistress on the side and take from her all you never get from your wife, just so you can continue to have everyone believing your marriage is wonderful, and just so you can continue to have your audience believing you're a heroic icon. And when are you going to film yourself taking a lie detector test of your own to prove that you don't cheat on your wife with your fave groupie, by the way? You insist that we are liars even though you haven't attempted to sue us because you know we are telling the truth, but we are all still waiting for the day to see you take a polygraph to prove you don't cheat on your wife with my friend, and we once again challenge you to do that now.
I don't have to take a polygraph to prove anything. And why are you pushing a lie detector on me when you are the one who advocates lie detectors not being reliable? Your accusations of my being unfaithful to my marriage is what drives me to butthurt each time you try to expose my marital infidelity on your videos, including the one in which you show saved screenshots of you challenging me in the comments section of my YouTube to take a lie detector test to prove I don't cheat on my wife with one of your friends before I cowardly deleted those comments. And then when you included that video of me making crepes with my teen daughter on Father's Day to show the world how insensitive I was for not publicly admitting to my children about how I bullied Anchor Pennington and then carrying on as if that never happened, I got butthurt and made a copyright claim and had your video removed. And then when you added that video proving to my wife that I cheat on her by including copies of the email you sent her revealing that you know the reason my eyes have been so red and swollen lately is because I have been crying over my mistress's attempts to leave me like the little pussy I am, which you know about because my mistress knows about this. So I got butthurt an all-important final time and made another copyright claim to have that video removed as well. People say I get butthurt too much. But realistically, can a con artist protect his reputation too much?
But do you really believe that you are invincible and that you can deceive others forever, Wilkos? It appears that with just like any other egomaniac, you have to make yourself continue to look good by making others, including your own guests, look bad in order to make any abuse you continue to give your mistress harder to report, so that if she does report you, she is the one who will look crazy and you are the one who will continue to look like the saint.
I told you I am not cheating on my wife and I don't have a mistress. I have always been faithful.
It's kind of hard for me to believe that when I got you to admit that several times already, Steve.
Why do you always have to get so technical about everything? You are thrashing my buzz. Anyway, I don't have to confess to you or anyone else that I have been banging your friend for months, which I intend to keep a secret forever, which is why I intend to humiliate even more innocent guests in order to cover up my guilt, and it doesn't matter that I leave my mistress greatly compromised in order to keep lying to the general public that my so-called marriage is just terrific, and I know my mistress will never leave me because I am Steve Wilkos. And with that, you can get the hell off of my stage.
We're not in a stage, Steve. We're in a kitchen.
Fine. Then get the hell out of my kitchen.
It's my kitchen. We're in my house.
Whatever. Since we're in a kitchen then, do you have a beer?
Oh, I think you had enough to drink for one night.
Well, I guess I better be on my way then.
Are you sure you were sober enough to drive, Steve? Why don't you call your wife first?
She's at work. I think I'll call my girlfriend instead.
What makes you so sure that she even wants anything to do with you anymore?
It's not my fault that she has Stockholm Syndrome and likes to take care of needy man-child chair-hurling psychos, and that I am a codependent little bitch with attachment issues. And for your information, I know my girlfriend will never leave me because once again I am Steve Wilkos.